Um, we are Weird Games. It feels silly doing this all over again.
I'm
I'm
Matt.
Kyle. Yeah, I'm
That's Matt. I'm
Kyle.
Matt.
That we have
That's
Matt and
Matt.
Matt. We have our
Hello.
Malifaux designer and
Hello.
our Through the Breach designer here with us today. Um, Before we get started into our kickoff, though, we figured it's probably a good idea to talk about our web store being open. If you didn't get any of our social media blasts from yesterday, um, you you can scoop up our Nightmare Edition box if you haven't already seen that. You might actually be able to see that behind Matt right now. We
It's right
also
up here.
have, yep,
It's right up here.
yeah, you can grab that. It's one of my favorite nightmares that we've done.
Yep. Yep.
Gumdrop is amazing. My favorite is Mad Mop. We'll be going into them a little bit later. Um, we also have 7 brand new faction fate decks. Uh, Mats are still echoing. Okay. Hmm. Well, is everyone getting an echo from? Okay. Just taking a look at live chat right now, seeing if everyone is experiencing any echo issues. There's a little bit of delay between the live stream and chat, so forgive me. Matt's okay, so both Matts are currently echoing. Matt, why don't you say something?
Okay. How's everyone doing? I'm super excited for this. I hope I'm not echoing. Other Matt, how about you?
Yes. Hi. Hello. Same thing. Hope I'm not echoey, but
How'd that sound? Just
Cool.
waiting on that. Okay, so we'll just do our best not to speak over each other. How about that? We'll go from there. All right. So hopefully you heard everything up to this point. We wanted to show off some of our faction fate decks that we have out during the Gen Con web sale right now. There's one for each faction that's currently out. They all have fully featured art on them. They're awesome. Let me see if I can get some of these to work on camera. Right now, I've got the
ooh,
Neverborn deck in front of me with Lord Chompy Bits and Mysterious Emissary. They're gorgeous. They're on every single card as far as art goes. Um, each back is unique based on the faction. We're really excited about them. They're plastic, if anyone is curious about that. Perfect. Yep, we got looks like we got the Rezzers right there.
big
Big
warning. Oh,
boy.
warning. Oh, yeah.
All right. Uh, so a few surprises also made their way, which we managed to get on the web store too. Matt, do you have any of those behind you currently? You'd like to
Yeah.
show? Looks like we got the Von Schill box right
Yeah. Von
behind us.
Schill's back here. Back here. So you'll
Perfect.
be excited to get the new Von Schill sculpts. And
Awesome.
a couple other doohickeys and good things back here.
And if you don't have our web store link, it is in the description, but someone should be dropping a link into chat as well. The sale is only live until August 4th. We have another echo. Echoes need to go away.
It looks like you have two sources up for us.
Let's try that. Um,
Maybe this is better.
okay, now Matthew, you try talking.
Yes. How's this? Is this better, everybody? A little bit,
Waldo's in the
maybe.
wires. That might be
Yes.
appropriate. Yeah, that might be the best thing I've seen so far. It's Waldo. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a Waldoism. Not me. I didn't do this. All right, so I think we fixed the issue. Looks like there were 2 audio sources, or one too many audio sources. Okay, um, where were we? The sale, right. So the sale is live until August 4th. Some of that stuff will only be available until supplies last. Don't worry though, misguided. We saw a bunch of those messages from yesterday. That she is not sold out. Don't worry, we have that taken care of. That order will, if you hit that special promotion of the $100 or more, you'll get her taken care of. And as with every Gen Con, though, expect a little bit of a delay with getting the orders out. It's nothing crazy. We do get an influx, um, so there's a little bit of an extension to get those orders out. But yeah, so August 4th, we've got that our sale going until then. Uh, but now that we've got that tackled, let's get right into the kickoff, huh? We've got a lot of ground to cover today. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be covering some recent releases as well as some upcoming content for our new games. But we're going to start with the other side. A lot of questions about the other side as of late, understandably. We're going to get right into that. For those unfamiliar with the other side, it's a larger but more streamlined game that takes place in the Malifaux universe, except on Earth instead of Malifaux. And we want to take a look at what's on the horizon for our large-scale war game. First, we have the other side's mobile app. It's called the Company Builder. It's currently in development. And just like Malifaux's Crew Builder app, you'll be able to build and share your favorite company lists, view and utilize stat cards, like flipping to glory, track effects for you and your opponent, and more. We've got the same great developer on the project that made the Malifaux Crew Builder app. It's already shaping up to be the same quality that you've come to expect with that app. And we're close to getting ready to beta test it. So expect to see more news from us on that in the future. We'll have some news posts up and sign-ups if anyone is interested in helping us out get those final little kinks taken care of. But what's beyond the mobile app, you might ask? Well, we know our players are hungry for the other side content. We are too. If you listened to Craig's recent podcast, you might have heard this comment already, and I couldn't agree more with it. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially, the other side is a great game that has been dealt a few black jokers. The most recent black joker is the ongoing pandemic that we're all experiencing, and as some of you know, we are planning on releasing a 2-player starter box for the other side, and that hasn't changed. We want to treat the other side starter box as a way to reignite interest in the game, and the original goal was to release it earlier this year, but with everything going on, releasing a starter box that is meant to spark interest in the game and grow the community doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense, so we're holding off a little bit until the time is right. While we can't give you an exact release window because I can't predict the future, what we can talk about is what will be in the starter box. Matt, what can you tell us about what to expect in the other side starter box?
So yeah, the other side 2-player starter box will introduce 2 new commanders and their respective forces to the game. We have Karaya and Koku bringing the Court of Two with enslaved spirits and Gwison, and Sonya Creed leading the guild with Gatling gunners and guild mages. This box will have enough models for 2 small companies, enough to get started and learn the basics of the game, as well as an introduction booklet walking you through step by step on learning everything you'll need to know, from moving to flipping cards and attacking, all the way up through objectives, to the point that once you're done, you'll easily be able to play through the game on your own, and then expand it into a full 1-commander company. As a commander, Sonya Creed is about controlling the battlefield and scorching the land with fire and magic, with her powerful area attacks and resource control. She's all about using area templates to kind of control the battlefield and block off segments for her opponents, so that her Gatling gunners and guild mages can get the rest of the work done. While Kirai, she focuses on the same thing she does in Malifaux with summoning. She'll be summoning in the host of the Court of Two, overwhelming her opponents and building unbreakable defense. These forces will both play really well in the starter box and get players started to expand in their other side journey. Along with these allegiances, you'll find that they're both syndicates, allowing them to easily expand on their currently existing factions, bringing new commanders and new units to the other factions of the game. The guild will easily be able to work with Abyssinia and King's Empire, while the Court of Two can work with the Gibbering Hordes and the Cult of the Burning Man. With them, like I mentioned before, they'll bring units. So Kirai with the Enslaved Spirits and the Gwisin. Enslaved Spirits act as bodyguards for their champions, extending the reach that they can block damage for them, as well as really bringing them up and acting as a large shield of bodies, essentially. While the Gwisin, they'll protect their forces with a powerful revenge ability, hurting anyone that damages their friendly allies, so that as the Enslaved Spirits are slowly being brought up by Kirai, they will damage their opposing forces and even out the game as it progresses, getting stronger every single turn. For the guild, we have the Gatling Gunners, a powerful long-range unit, entrenched and great at holding on to objectives and punishing their enemies from a distance. And we also have the Guild Mages, which is a group of powerful sorcerers who can bend the reality of the battlefield, moving around objectives and really controlling the battlefield and how points are scored. Included in the starter box are not only TOS cards, but also Malifaux cards. We really wanted this game to be the combination of both TOS and Malifaux and bring those two groups of players together. So with these stat cards, you'll be able to bring new variants and gameplay styles to Kirai and Sonia, as well as new versatile options for both the Guild and Resurrectionists with the Gatling Gunners, Enslaved Spirits, Guild Mages, and Gwisin. I think that's all I really have for the other side starter box. We're really excited for this box to come out, so I'll shoot it back to Kyle.
Thanks, Matt. I think that just about covers it. There's going to be more for us to talk about once we get closer to its release, but the release window is crucial for the game's success. Once we are able to get comfortably back to our friendly local game stores and playing again, you'll be hearing more about the starter box. But for now, let's talk about a game that is fairly easy to play remotely, and that is Through the Breach. We've got a lot of great content in the pipeline, and today, to talk to you about Through the Breach, if you didn't already hear me introduce our newest designer, we have Matthew here. He joined us not too long ago and has already put out loads of great content for the Fated to explore. Matt, what can you tell us?
Yeah, thanks. So the first thing that's sort of new for Through the Breach are augments, which is essentially free content that we offer that Fate Masters can add to existing games of Through the Breach. And they're essentially meant to introduce new ideas and just sort of fun little things for Fate Masters to use. Like we have the Salty Sea Devil there, as you know, that is the alt model for Mary Blacktongue Bonnet's crew in our last year's Nightmare box. Then we also have Klaus Norwood, who's just sort of this shifty, Neverborn character that Fate Masters can use to help get their Fated out of a pinch if they need it. So they allow us to do fun things for holidays, and just if we have a cool idea, we can do that as well. But essentially, they also allow more crossover between Malifaux and Through the Breach, so you can get the most out of your models in both systems. We're going to continue releasing regular free content, so definitely keep looking at the augments in the future. And I believe, we might have some coming up very soon. So that's exciting.
And if you haven't already used those yet in your adventures, you can find them on our website in the Through the Breach resources section. You should be able to find that link in our description. Maybe someone could post that link in chat for us as well. But next, let's talk about something a little bit meatier. Let's talk about the one-shots. Which are quick and easy ways to throw curveballs into existing campaigns, start new campaigns, or just have, a one-time session. The Fate Master doesn't have time to set up a session. Why not spend $5 and get going that way? So what can you tell us about our recent one-shots that we've been coming out with?
Yeah, so for the one-shots, one of the design directions we wanted to take for Through the Breach was to give players a fresh way to interact with the game. So Through the Breach has great mechanics, and it already has a really good tool set and just all sorts of flexibility for players to use. But we wanted the one-shots to push that even more. So what we've been aiming for is giving Fate Masters options, which might sound a little funny, but optional content that can be used to make enemies harder, scenarios more complex, expand on the world you're building as a Fate Master, allows us to really make the one-shots feasible for both your experienced Through the Breach players who might be, 3 or 4 Destiny steps deep, or players who are just starting out. And my personal favorite is that we also try to work in safety nets for Fate Masters. So if the Fated plan on something you didn't think of, or if they really sort of go left when you wanted them to go right, we try to cover those bases for you as well and include them in the one shot. So you're not scrabbling and being like, I don't know. We just have to try and figure that out. So if something does come up like that, we even add in a little more augments and add-ons and things like that for Fate Masters to make sure that their game continues to run smoothly. But yeah, the ones that we've released are the Dead Tide, which again focuses on Mary Blacktongue Bonnet and her skeletal crew, which we released last year for the Nightmare Box. They're a new mechanic. It lets players sort of bid on items in a new auction mechanic. And again, that was the first time that we introduced a lot of the options and sort of safety nets built in for Fate Masters. That one was super fun because who doesn't love zombie pirates, right? The next one was Uncontainable, which is unfortunately topical, but it focuses on mapping a disease outbreak in the quarantine zone, and the Fated, as usual, need to find the cause and stop it from spreading. And with the inspiration for this one actually came from a real-life map, which is called a Voronoi map, which is something that we use in mathematics, but it also has medical applications. So it was actually first used in 1854 during the Broad Street cholera outbreak in London. So bringing mechanics and actually events that have happened in the real world into Through the Breach really help push that feeling of an alternate Earth in Malifaux. So the map is a great mechanic that really helps players immerse themselves while testing characters in new ways. And it actually lets you physically see what changes and what effects the Fated actions are having on the map, which is a really cool thing to see. The next one was the Atomi Shuffle, which elevates the Fated and puts them into a very precarious position. Their task is to pull off a heist, but the target is the huge Condor rail conglomerate. So how do you do that? How do you approach a problem when you're faced with an adversary that you have no chance of beating? Like that's something that is, that's like saying I'm going to take on the guild. Well, you might be able to do a little bit here and there, but if you're not going to defeat the guild, so you would figure out a different way to get the job done. So there's definitely still combat, but planning, strategy, scheduling, keen eyes, and maybe even figuring out how to drive a train on the fly. Make sure that there's enough in here for all kinds of players, whether you are focused more on dealing damage or if you like to take a more mental and careful approach to problems. The Atomi Shuffle rewards both of those playstyles, and players will get the most if they cleverly combine those two together. And we have one that's not released yet, but it's coming up very, very soon, and I'm super excited for this one. This is called Voyage to the Moon. And it contains, or rather, it sort of stars, 2 new characters who are Vernon and Wells, who you can see right here. They're 2 eccentric scientists that have found their way to Malifaux, and they ask the Fated a very simple question, which is, have you ever been to the moon? So true to its name, Voyage to the Moon actually lets the Fated take the first ever journey into space. Sponsored, of course. I know, it was... But see, that's the great thing about Through the Breach is that we can do crazy stuff like this, because it's like the mechanics can help make it work. And of course, who would be the first people to explore the moon but the Explorer Society? So speaking of Vernon and Wells, they're actually a great example of how Malifaux and Through the Breach sort of give and take from one another. The pair of astronomers is not only in Voyage to the Moon, but they're also going to be a versatile model in the Explorer Society. So this is the first official reveal of their artwork. We hope you love them. We love them so much. Vernon is the lovable nut on the right, and Wells on the left tries to keep her boss from setting himself on fire, driving too fast, inventing crazy stuff. So they have a very, very fun rapport. So even if it's a great way to get started Through the Breach. And on the topic of the Explorer Society and Through the Breach, they've been doing some digging. So Through the Breach players should too. There are a few models in the Explorer Society we are not revealing today, but they come directly from Through the Breach adventures. So you could start speculating on which ones those might be in the meantime. So I think that's all we have for the one-shots right now.
Yeah, we've got a lot more one-shots planned for this year. Those are just the ones that we are talking about today. Just you're able to string together a campaign with, $5 a one-shot. And again, if anyone needs to get access to those, they're on Drive-Thru RPG, and the links are in our description, or maybe someone posts them in chat. We'll see. But, sometimes we want an adventure that's a little bit more cohesive, a little bit longer. So with that, we recently released a new Penny Dreadful, which is a multi-act adventure meant to be played over multiple sessions. And the newest one is called Days Without Accident. What can you tell us about that adventure?
Yes, so like Kyle said, Days Without Accident is this year's full multi-act Penny Dreadful, and it focuses on an investigation that the Fated are literally pulled right into the center of. They're racing against time to figure out secrets that are wrapped in murder and blackmail and mystery, and they need to try and figure out not only, sort of the whodunit mystery part of it, but they will eventually uncover one of the biggest schemes in Malifaux history. It was super fun to work on, and it's super thrilling. And it's really good to make an adventure that lets people sort of put on their gumshoes and get a bit like Sherlock Holmes. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty if the situation called for it. And in Days Without Accident, it certainly is. There's the sort of the private eye detective angle, but you'll need to rough some people up because they're definitely looking to stop the Fated from pursuing their investigation. That'll be available in print as well as through Drive-Thru RPG right now. And the second adventure that's going to be available in print is The Obsidian Gate, which we released in sort of a worldwide campaign a few years ago. And it's definitely a solid fan favorite. People have been asking for a physical copy for a long time, which they should, because it is one of the adventures that takes place on Earth. So fans of the other side will definitely like this one. Puts them in more familiar territory than doing something in Malifaux. And it sees the Fated interact with the Obsidian Gate, which is a stone rumored to have come from an ancient titanic beast that dwells within the lands of the Oni. I'll keep the details to myself and I won't spoil it, but the artwork is fantastic. The adventure is fantastic. And, if your Fated need to escape back to Earth in case they have made enemies in Malifaux, or if they just feel like exploring the East a little bit, and Earth is a great place to start.
Makes enemies in Malifaux.
No. Everyone knows only good things happen in Malifaux. So we're also planning on releasing more Penny Dreadfuls as well, and something a little bit new, which is something called a double tap, and it's bigger than a one-shot, but smaller than a 4-act Penny Dreadful. So these adventures will let players dive more deeply into a story without needing to devote tons of sessions to a single adventure hook. So you can look for more information on those in the future. And I think that pretty much covers it for Through the Breach, I think.
We've got one more thing I think we can talk about. What about From Nightmares?
Oh, yes. How could we have forgotten? So we've been hard at work on the Through the Breach's next big expansion, which will focus on the original denizens of Malifaux, the Neverborn. Players will have access to new pursuits, new talents, magia, and much more. And I think we can reveal one of the pursuits to you right now.
One.
Just one, yes. This is the Behemoth. So the Behemoth specializes in brute force, soaking up damage before crushing her opponents with powerful attacks. She's definitely become a favorite in the office, and we can't wait to see what sorts of characters everybody comes up with. If the phrase tank that hits super hard appeals to you, then the Behemoth is definitely a pursuit you should consider venturing down. And some of you who have keen eyes might notice that, no, your eyes are not lying. In From Nightmares, you'll be able to play a species of Neverborn, like a Nephilim, a Half-Blood, Woe, and others. This will add another awesome layer to creating a Fated character and open up possibilities for Fate Masters to explore the darkest parts of Malifaux without fear, actually letting players take on the role of Neverborn and sort of flipping Through the Breach on its head and figuring out how these original sort of creatures of darkness in the night will interact with current campaigns. And I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes it's fun to play the monster, sure, but it's just as much fun to fight them. From Nightmares comes chock full of new enemies to fight, expanding on the woes, puppets, nightmares, and flora of Malifaux. And we have this vagabond shrub right here that we'd like to show you all. Ooh, and some razor grass as well. I think you can imagine what razor grass can do. But yes, this is Jeffrey. We call him around the office. But you're all free to name your vagabond shrubs whatever you like. But these are some of the two of the new enemies that players can fight in the From Nightmares Bestiary. So I so much want to show you all the entire book, but this is all we're going to reveal on From Nightmares right now. So I will send it back to
From
Kyle.
Nightmares is currently in playtesting. We'll have more details as we get closer to the release, but if you want to participate in the playtest, you can reach out to us right now. We're hungry for more playtesters. We want to make the book as the best as it possibly can be, and the only way we can do that is with your help. So reach out to us,
Absolutely.
help us out, play some games, and play as some monsters. And if you're not familiar with Through the Breach and any of that sounded fun, you can come check it out. The live stream that we're going to be having run on Saturday by Dead Aussie to get a better idea of how Through the Breach is played. That's a great way to be introduced, is just kind of see other people play it first.
Yep,
but
absolutely.
Last and certainly not least, I think a few of you are here to know more about a little game called Malifaux. No?
No one.
It's just
us.
So
It's just us.
We like to do something special every year at Gen Con, if you're not familiar, where we release a core box of an existing master, but in a very new light. And with our nightmare boxes, we like to stretch our creativity a bit, and this year is no different. In fact, we might have gone all the way. So this year we have Malifaux 1988, where we've gone from steampunk to cyberpunk.
Thanks for
That's
that
what I'm
pun,
here
Kyle.
for.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
So this year's Nightmare Edition is an alt version of Mei Fang and her crew. Gumdrop has taken the lead along her trusty totem Spritz. As you can see, the robotic piranha over there.
Yep.
Right?
The fish tank.
Previously the Forgeling, and you can also see Mean Streak there, who is the alt for Kang. Mei Fang's rail workers have been replaced with Gumdrop's gang, which includes Mad Mop, King Crybaby, and Tagline. And you can scoop that box up right now on our web store. I'm sure someone's got a link going in chat. Otherwise, it's in our description as well. And we have a little bit more to talk about as far as Through the Breach goes with our Nightmare box as well.
Yes, so I did lie a little bit. We have one more one shot that we can show off to you. It is called Into the Logic Engine, and it does focus particularly around Malifaux 1988, just like the Dead Tide focused on Mary Black Tonguebonnet and her crew. So for Into the Logic Engine, it's a one shot that'll bring the Fated into a place that we've never ever seen in Malifaux before. It's filled with neon lights and strange futuristic machinery. It pulls elements from classic video games and dungeon crawlers, so make sure you know your cheat codes and your power-ups. It was totally new territory for Through the Breach, but it's one that you definitely cannot miss. You can expect to see it released sometime in September, and I'm just super excited for this one. It should be just so much fun, and really, I don't think it's like anything your old steampunk characters will have seen before.
That's not all we've got this year. We also, if you're a 10 Thunders player, you'll be happy to hear that our alt model for you is ready to be scooped up. Let's see. There she is. This year's Miss model is an alt for Fuhatsu. And she's ready to gear up the battlefield with that ridiculous Gatling gun. And for every $100 that you spend during the Gen Con sale, you'll receive a Misguided here. And that's what's going on today in the world of Malifaux, but maybe we should talk about what's to come.
Yes.
You might be aware that we are coming out with a new faction in Malifaux. It is Malifaux's 8th faction. Uh, the Explorers Society are the curious and the adventurous, and they are trying to unlock and discover Malifaux's many, many mysteries. And just like every other faction, the Explorer Society will have a total of 8 masters with new and exciting keywords to go along with them. And we're going to tease you a little bit with the book cover. Uh, One of my favorites. We have...
Yeah.
The book will be coming out in November, which includes 4 new stories that push the narrative even further. And crew boxes will be released right around that time as well. And I know, it's a bummer that Explorer Society isn't releasing during this Gen Con, but for now, what we can do is take the opportunity to talk about some of the masters within that faction. And let's start with some masters that you might already be familiar with. Matt, what can you tell me about these 3?
Yeah, so currently at the start of 3rd edition, we had Bass and McCabe. They were our introduction to the Explorer Society, getting players just a little bit of taste of what might be to come. And then a couple months ago, we released some images of Lord Cooper. And honestly, folks, you should really read what that contract said, because it's not a nice place. Cooper's not a nice person. And we're really excited. All 3 of these masters are going to be expanded in the Explorer Society book, with Bass and McCabe getting new models for their respective keywords that'll flesh out some mechanics, and we're really excited for what's to come for them. And for Lord Cooper, and those of you who want to take a sneak peek about how he operates on the table, be sure to check in tomorrow with us as our friends from the Third Floor Wars. We'll get him on the table and face off against the Free Corps in a live game streamed right here on YouTube, where we'll provide some commentary on the game and walk through some of the design decisions between Cooper and his Apex crew. And if you missed the live stream, don't worry, as it'll be posted here on YouTube shortly after. Now, that's it for the old masters. But as we've already talked about some of the other models that have come up, one of them have been the Deva. And we think it's time that we finally reveal the master who runs that shadowy show. English Ivan is a fan favorite who's finally joining the fray, but he's a changed man, and he's finally discovered a secret that is even too large for him. It's changed him forever. On the tabletop, Ivan works as a mobile summoner, peeling away the shadows of his enemies and commanding them to strike back against their original owners. During his activation, he's primarily going to be using his Runic Siphon action, which dealing some decent damage and can provide some strong debuffs with the Shadow Pin trigger. It's mainly there for his Intercision trigger, which he'll use to summon his shadows. But it's not easy. He'll need 2 crows to pull it off because of just how good it is. But fear not, Ivan's a trickster, and he can utilize his ungentle concealment provided by his own shadow markers, and even the darkness of some of his Umbra models, from a negative into a positive, which he can then use to turn into a crow for that action. When designing Ivan, we really wanted to focus on the idea of duality and everything coming as a pair, from his dual keywords all the way to his totem, Mr. Mordrake, who you can see in the background right now. Mordrake is a shadow slithering off the ground and acts as a reflection of Ivan, who has his own thoughts and goals. On the table, Mordrake focuses in melee combat as a comparison to Ivan's more ranged focus. But he's fairly easy to remove with only his 5 wounds. However, as Ivan's shadow himself, Mordrake comes with a powerful Demise Silhouette ability, which will let him come back to life by stealing some of the essence of his own master. Alongside Mordrake and Ivan will come the Department of Ungentlemanly Affairs, as well as the Shadowy Umbra. Now, the Department of Ungentlemanly Affairs, they all share this Ungentlemanly Affairs ability, as well as some sneaky sort of thief-like actions, often found dealing with objectives rather than the confrontation and enemies in front of them. You can go back and look at Gibson DeWalt and his focus on light manipulating devices, from creating a pentumbral bridge, creating pathways for the shadows within Umbra's crew to really go through. Or you also have people like Ava Havenhand, who will use her trickery and guile, as well as a plethora of other means and ways to get past any solution so they can achieve their ungentlemanly goals. While the umbral creatures, these creatures make up the front line of Ivan's crew. They bring melee threats focused around tearing down their opponents in melee combat and keeping them constrained so that the more backline focused DUA models can accomplish their true objectives, like the schemes and strategies that really score you the points. Now, Umbra models have a few consistent traits among them, the chief of which is Born of Shadow. This creates a small aura of concealment around each of them, giving helpful defense while also setting up Ivan and the rest of the DUA's ungentlemanly affairs ability. This concealment aura will help protect the backline crew from getting shot at, as they're not the tankiest of folks. You can't really sneak around while wearing armor. But in order to truly get the best out of Ivan, you'll have to utilize both halves of the crew in tandem so that your opponents might fall into the shadows around you. We're super excited for the community to get their hands on Ivan and are excited for him to release shortly after the Explorer Society faction book, where you'll learn about his recent story and discover some of the hidden secrets and new masters of the Explorer Society. Now, while you have to wait for the Explorer Society book to come out to find about the 4 other masters, I think it's okay for us to take a look at some of the other things coming. Kyle, what do you think?
I think we should probably show off an effigy, maybe? Every faction has one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yes.
sounds good. This is the Intrepid effigy. He pretty accurately puts the Explorer in Explorer Society. This effigy is focused around buffing his allies and moving them around with some inspirational healing when they go above and beyond, like any true adventurer. It even helps that he's got a little torch to help light the way. And as an effigy, he'll be around for most crews, but sometimes you want to get big and strong. And like the other effigies in Malifaux, the Intrepid Emissary isn't bound to stay small forever. So soon he'll become the Intrepid Emissary. A power of symbol and respect, the Intrepid Emissary stands proud before the Society Manor, defending all those within with mighty shield and spear. The Intrepid Emissary is a true stalwart defender and is one of the tankiest models we've released in Malifaux for some time, with a defense of 7. Along with that will come his by your side ability, allowing him to jump in the way of his oncoming attackers to protect his squishier folks like Ivan and the DUA crew. But that's not all that he has. As a mighty lion and warrior, he can also scare his enemies with the intimidating roar action, throwing to them aside and even slowing down some of the minions that come in his way. But like a true Spartan, if you really wanted to get in the fight, you could even use his spear toss trigger to attack the enemies from a range while they're scurrying in fear.
Yes.
Along with Ivan and Cooper and the rest of their crews, the Society's Intrepid Fate Box will be available soon after the launch of the Explorer Society. And I'm super excited for them, but for now, I'll let you go back to Kyle.
So that's not all we're releasing with near the window of the launch for the Explorer Society. We'll also be talking about today the release of 3rd edition's very first starter box. So we're going to be starting with the Explorer Society starter box. Each M3E starter box will help players adjust to new rules of the game with straightforward and effective actions and abilities. Each will include roughly around 4 characters worth enough soul stones to start a game of Henchman Hardcore. Later this year, you'll be able to scoop up the Explorer Society box, as we have right here, which will include Mr. Nagatoro. He is a hard-hitting henchman who will deal out poison and obeys, and you might recognize his last name if you're an other side player. His lore and heritage is pretty deep in there, so maybe take a deep dive into that. We also have...
And Kyle, what was that name again?
Nagatoro. Yes. And then we also have Tannenbaum here, Christopher Tannenbaum. He's a chatty enforcer who has enough utility to help in almost any situation. He was originally introduced in our very first Penny Dreadful for Through the Breach in Defense of Innocence. So, and even in that adventure, we described that he was a part of the Exploration Society. So we're going to be seeing a little bit more of him in 3rd edition. Lastly, in that starter box, we've also got two hopeful prospects. You can see one on the cover here, and the other one kind of just on the fold of the box there.
Just peeking his way
Yeah,
in.
and with a little bit of luck, these mustachioed minions will help hunt down your opponents in no time. They're a lot of fun, and all these characters are versatile in the Explorer Society, and the same will be carried through in future starter boxes. That's right. We're not just doing one starter box. We're going to be doing one per faction. And the first two that we're putting out are the Outcast and Bayou right now that you can see here. Eventually, we'll have one for each faction with versatile models, stat cards, a measuring widget, and a fate deck. So that's enough for one player to get right into Henchman Hardcore and then to begin expanding their collection. So this means that no matter what starter box you scoop up, you'll be able to get the ball rolling on any master you decide on within that faction. More starter boxes will be coming out in 2021, along with a bunch of other surprises that we have in the coming year. Um, but that's all we've got today to show you. Stick around in the stream. We've got a Q&A about Malifaux 3rd Edition with Craig from Third Floor Wars. So stay right here. We'll be back in a few minutes. But before